Good evening, it's Joshua Taylor coming to you from here in Hope, British Columbia. Donald E. Taylor, and just finished putting together a timeline of events going back to the beginning of my walk with Jesus 40 years ago, and so I'm just in the process of filling in the blanks. So I would like to start and share a testimony that goes back to the summer of 1985 in Winnipeg, Manitoba. At the time, I wintered in Winnipeg. The year prior, the Lord gave me a vision to go on a 67-day journey across Canada to testify against against abortion. And in the vision, I was riding home one night from Prince George back to the country, and I saw an open vision on the back of my bike where I had signs made up. Anyway, that winter, I got as far as Thunder Bay, and then I went back to Winnipeg, Manitoba, to stay the winter. And anyway, in the summer of 1985, I met a brother who God raised from the dead about an hour after I met him. He took him down into the grave of the prophets in Israel, and the angel of the Lord told him to touch the bones of Elisha, and they were all like a bright pottery blue. There was an energy blowing from the bones, and he didn't want to touch them. So Noel obeyed the Lord, and he touched the bones, and the power that was in the bones, that still was present in the bones, raised him back to life. And I met this brother about an hour after God brought him back to life, and he shared with me a testimony that Jesus gave to him, or a vision and a prophecy that God spoke to him after he brought him back from the dead. And in this vision, he saw that he was standing in a pit of serpents, but he had no fear. And the Lord gave him a assured word of prophecy, and what he spoke to him was this. He said, be ready to leave between Monday and Tuesday. And at the time, Noel, he was visiting Winnipeg from Alberta. Lethbridge was I think Medicine Hat was his hometown. He was actually the inventor of the ultralight, and the Lord showed him many things. But this was my first encounter with a brother who walked in the prophetic. In my walk with the Lord prior to this, I was raised up by the Church of Christ, and they don't teach about the Holy Spirit, and they do not teach about the end times, like you find it in the charismatic circles, right? So anyway, his testimony drew me to him, and we became best of friends. And at the time I was writing a lot of poetry. I love to write. Prophetic poetry, and when it comes, I just have to sit down and write. So anyway, this found me downtown Winnipeg at a Christian restaurant, and I just felt a peace there. If the atmosphere is not right, I find a hard time to write down poetry. But anyway, I was sitting there engrossed in writing out a prophecy or a poem, and in comes this man all shaken up, and the Lord used me to call him over and befriend him. I don't know his name, I forget his name, but he told me that he was with a group in downtown Winnipeg with a what do you call it? Not a musical group, but a band by the name of Satan's Child. And he was coming there for help because no one believed him. So he happened to walk through the doors of this Christian restaurant, and I said, coming over, tell me what's on your heart. So I gave him a chance to share, and that's where I found out about his testimony and on what was happening in his life. At that time, the demons that were in this guy were leading him down to the river to be killed by the group. And this group, they would hold rock concerts in Winnipeg, and they would take people from the rock concerts and put them on ice in the morgues, still alive. And at their high festivals, they would sacrifice these people in this van, in this bus that had marble tables and where people were strapped down and their hearts were ripped out. And this brother, he wanted out, and he was led in the circumstances into this restaurant. And I told him, well, you don't have to go down to the river. Call up your people and tell them that you're sick, that you can't make it, right? I had to come up with some kind of excuse that he would believe. Anyway, before he left, I said, well, take these matches, that had the name of the restaurant on it. If you get in trouble, call me, right? So an hour went by, and all of a sudden I get this phone call. He called the restaurant, and the manager of the restaurant came over, and my friend was on the other end. He was all in fear and panic. He was only allowed to use a certain phone booth in the downtown core of the city of Winnipeg. And so when he called them up, they didn't hesitate to send a couple of their people to take him out. So he is running for his life, nowhere to go, and he calls me up and says, Lord, you're going to have to show me where this brother is. His life is in danger. And at the time, I didn't know that God was going to place me in this kind of circumstance. But what do you do? The churches were aware of this person, but they were totally paralyzed with fear. They would not get involved. And what he had to share was almost unbelievable about this group. This guy had a photographic memory. He knew names, places, attaché numbers, bank numbers, and all of this, right? But they used his body as a recipient for demons, and they would call the demons out at appointed times. But this guy had enough, and he wanted out, and he was ready for his life. So anyway, I called up my buddy where I was staying in the west end of Winnipeg, only a few miles away, and I said, you need to come down. A situation's going down. We need to take this brother, who was a Mennonite brother, who got caught up in all this darkness. We need to take him into shelter under our wings. So they went back by cab. I rode my bike back that I was preparing to resume, to go east, to leave next spring from Thunder Bay. But the Lord unknowingly brought this to an end in this journey with the taking a stand for abortion. God cut it short. Anyway, I rode the bike back, and it was getting dark. It was cold out, and at midnight we were all upstairs, praying, and all of a sudden a cold gust of air comes right through the walls of the house and lifts this brother right off the ground and slams him to the floor. And you can just imagine what the face of my roommate looked like. He was in total fear and in denial, and said, "Joshua, you can't stay here. You and your friend has to go." And so I picked up a few belongings. I didn't change any of my routine. We just left, and we went and we hooked up with this brother who God raised from the dead, and we went into hiding. And I guess this is where I'm going to end this part of it. There's more of this particular testimony where this brother gives us. We were downtown Winnipeg the next day. We changed our routine. We dressed up in different clothes, and he gave us a slip and crossed the Osborne Street Bridge to visit the high priest who lived in a penthouse suite. But that's another story, and I'll share that tomorrow. This is Joshua Taylor coming to you from here in Hope, British Columbia. I'm putting together a testimonial of my walk with Jesus, and I hope to be putting all this into an audio file that will eventually become a book that I would like to I'd like to publish by this coming fall.